First aid, in many ways, is shock the course when you take it. It's a course pretty much about shock. So medical shock, identifying the symptoms of it, identifying signs or symptoms, like how to see that the person is in shock, figuring out what caused the shock, and then treating the cause of the shock. That's an incredibly large part of first aid. Most first aid conditions will have signs or symptoms, like half of them or a big percentage of them, that are just shock symptoms. So you'll see with most of the emergencies or most of the situations we're talking about that the person is going to have cold or clammy skin. The skin will go pale, or if they have a darker skin, it may go ashen gray. So either way, the skin is becoming discolored. You will often see nausea, potentially vomiting, even if the issue isn't digestive, right? Even if it isn't a problem with the stomach or anything, like someone will bleed and then they'll vomit. Like, what? Like this, but it's a shock symptom. It's a thing that can happen. And the point is, when you see shock, it should clue you in to that the situation is getting bad or getting worse. The worse shock the shock symptom gets, the worse the situation basically is for the casualty in general, regardless of what it is. If you had a scale of like 1 to 10, and like 1 is you're good, and 10 is, oh no, they're going to be dead in like 30 seconds, right? The worse the shock gets, the higher up the scale you go. That's the idea. That's sort of the indicator that you get to tell you how this is going. Okay, what is shock then? What's happening? Shock, medical shock, is the body's kind of emergency save me system. So you get an impact to the head, you stub your toe, you eat a poison, whatever, something happens. When the body registers, I'm in danger, when it knows that that is happening, it's going to take all the blood from anywhere that's not critical, and it's going to rush it to the brain and the heart and critical organs, basically. It's going to say, okay, we don't need the skin, save heart, brain. We don't need the stomach, save heart, brain. And the body's going to say, all this stuff, don't need it, save the heart and the brain. Now, your skin can be without blood being focused on the area for a pretty long time, and it's actually okay. Your brain, after about 4 to 6 minutes, brain cells start dying. So when your body registers you got a serious problem, it's going to say, look, we got to save the brain cells, rush it. So shock is actually a really good thing. Shock helps people live for longer than they might otherwise had the shock not been there. It's really nice. But what are the signs and symptoms of this? What's going to happen when it does this? Okay, you stub your toe, right? So you walk in and you just ram your toe into something and you start swearing profanities in your favorite language and etc. Okay. For whatever reason, your body says, we're going into emergency mode. Oh dear, let's make sure we don't die. Okay. It takes the blood from your leg, from all your extremities, from your toe, from your stomach, and it rushes it to your head and rushes it to your heart to try to make sure that you don't die. Your skin starts going pale or paler or grayer, whatever, depending on your skin tone, and potentially starts getting clammy. That's because the skin isn't receiving as much blood, and the skin basically goes into its own kind of emergency mode and starts not being the consistency that it would normally be in when you were healthy, basically. So the skin turns all sorts of funny colors. Why? The blood's leaving it. Okay. Your stomach doesn't have blood going to it now in the amount that it normally wants. So the stomach says, empty me. I'm not digesting. Get this out of me. That's why you're nauseous. That's why you want to vomit. All these nausea and vomiting and etc. symptoms and signs and symptoms, etc. that you get with shock are because the stomach isn't receiving blood. It's going everywhere else. The stomach says, get this out of me. Basically, every symptom is the type of logical thing that you would expect to happen when insert body part or insert organ doesn't get blood and goes, well, I'm not getting blood, so stop doing this. And then you feel it. That's basically it. Headaches aren't generally associated with shock, depending on what type of thing happens. The two big ones that I would look for, once again, are skin condition and temperature change, and would be digestive. So if someone just suddenly gets nauseous, like someone like hits their head and then they just get really nauseous, someone, stubs their toe and just feels like they got to vomit. If you've ever had a flu before, so you've ever had a really bad illness, and then you get really hot, and maybe like you feel hot, but then your skin's cold, you start sweating, your skin gets pale or cloudy or gray. These are all shock symptoms, okay? So when we talk about the heat illness section, or we're in head and spinal injuries, and then we reference, okay, well, the skin is pale, we know what we're talking about now. We're talking about a shock symptom. Now, you can't really do anything for the skin being too pale. There's no real first aid for that. So why do we care? Two things. One, we care because it's good for you to know how bad the situation is. Two, medical professionals, doctors, paramedics, etc. Actually, paramedics aren't medical professionals, depending on what jurisdiction you're in, and a lot of them are pissed about that. It's a regulation thing, but that's for I'm talking to our favorite cameraman John right now. We got to make a video on how pissed off a lot of these paramedics are because they're not considered medical professionals in some jurisdictions, because they're so pissed off. And fair enough, right? Like in some jurisdictions, they call them, they're essentially taxi drivers. They have to go through all this schooling, do all this training, have all these skills, and they're just taxi drivers. It is enraging. And in other jurisdictions, they're medical professionals. It's in the dichotomy there is a whole thing. It's really interesting. Anyways, so back from that. I think we've belabored the point on that enough. I think you have enough on shock. But it's good to stress it. And frankly, if you want to look up a bit more about what is medical shock on your own, because so much of first aid ties to it, it's not a bad idea. And if your first aid instructor kind of just glosses over this in like 3 seconds, guys, come on. The whole course is based on this. It's just show a video. Like, it's just stuff. Like, you probably have an animated video, I hope. Please. But anyways, so we've done that. Now, there are 4 positions you can put people in to manage shock in general, and they tie to what's known as the ABCs, airway, breathing, and circulation, that come up in the make sure they don't die part of first aid, which is going to be in a bit later. But if you're watching this video after that, I'm talking about the primary survey within emergency scene management. If you're going to see that later, don't worry about that now. But there's basically the ABCs. Now, the 4 shock positions that are generally recommended, depending on what's wrong, are recovery, the recovery position, the semi-sitting position, flat on the back, and position found. The recovery position is used to protect the airway. This is the A position. The semi-sitting position is used to assist with making breathing easier, making it the B position. The flat on the back position is done to make it easier for blood to distribute throughout your body, so it's not fighting gravity so much. And I have a fun little water bottle trick thing I'll show you guys in a second. So the flat on the back position is used for circulation, making it the C position. And then if they don't have an A, B, or a C problem that's immediately obvious, then they probably have something like a head or spinal injury, or a broken wrist, like a bone or a joint problem, some skeletal whatever. So if they have one of those, the position you find them in is usually just, look, they put themselves somewhere comfortable, just don't move them, right? So once again, recovery position, semi-sitting, flat on back, and position found. To explain flat on the back, a trick that I was taught years ago, and a bunch of instructors in the area where I trained first aid in, and we have this like bottle thing we do to kind of explain this. So you have a bottle. Normally we'd use a water bottle, but I'm using a bottle filled with colored liquid so that the contrast is a bit easier to see. So we have this bottle here. Imagine that's your head and that's your feet. If you're standing up, where is the blood going? Obviously, the liquid being the blood here. Gravity, sending it down. If I hold you up by your feet in midair, well, I mean, it's going to your head, but this isn't very practical. If you're sitting down, your head's still elevated, so the liquid is still not going to the head. If you're flat on your back, what will happen is gravity will not be fighting you so hard. Your heart will not have to pump as hard to distribute blood through the entire body. It's going everywhere somewhat equally. Heart has to do less work. The whole idea with the flat on the back position is if you have a problem where your circulation's leaving you, you're bleeding, you have a circulation problem, whatever, you want the heart to do less work, you put your body in a position where your heart has to do less work. That's the basic idea, flat on the back.